Welcome to the Society Hub podcast series here at the School of Business and Society at the University of York in the United Kingdom. Today, we are continuing our mini-series on navigating career paths. Our earlier episodes heard from colleagues in careers and placements here at the school, as well as from a member of our postgraduate alumni. But today, I am thrilled that we have a member of our undergraduate alumni, Ana Issac. Ana is going to help us learn more about important hints and tips on navigating your career path and study path, particularly after university. Ana, you are very welcome, and it is really great to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Sinead. Thank you for having me.
Not at all, delighted. Really great to have you, Ana. Ana, it would be great to get a brief overview from you about your study path and career path today. And I know listeners would be very interested, while I know a little bit more about your background, and I know how interesting it is. I know listeners and viewers would like to hear it in your own words, please. Thank you.
Of course, so absolutely. My study and career path has definitely been a colorful one. I graduated with a first class degree in business and management from York, which laid a very strong foundation for me. But I've always been someone who learns best by doing. And so throughout my studies, I always worked in my family's business called Vista. And all the while also actively looking for opportunities to build my experience alongside my education. And I feel like that journey led me to a marketing internship in Malta, which was a wonderful eye-opening experience into a luxury real estate company, where I got some experience into international business, and it sparked my interest in social media marketing and content creation. So all the industries that I could explore in the future.
Fantastic, really great. And such a depth and richness to your experience to date, Ana, which was one of the reasons why I was so keen to have you speak with us today. So thank you so much for sharing those details with us. Well, the theme of the podcast is navigating career paths. Before we get into the details of your career journey, what have been the highlights of your educational journey? You mentioned your first class degree graduation, which was amazing, and congratulations, just absolutely superb. But I know listeners and viewers would really benefit from hearing a little bit more about the detail around that, please.
Of course. So there are so many memorable moments during my studies, especially the times when I can bring the theory into life. And as I mentioned, the internship in Malta was a great example. And so to just set the scene, I was studying international marketing and market research modules during my term time in York. And then all of a sudden in Malta, I would be analyzing luxury property markets and building social media campaigns. So it was just a beautiful crossover between theory and industry. Another experience would be during my HR and learning and development module, which was led by you, Sinead. And I based my assessment work on what I was doing in my professional career at the time. So at Vista, we were implementing a new timekeeping software, and I delivered a learning and development event to introduce that software into top management and provided them with a detailed implementation plan and a training plan for our teams across the UK. And so that was a very memorable moment, and it perfectly combined my career with my degree, and very rewarding at the same time.
Wonderful. And what's really interesting about what you've said, and thank you for the kind words about the HR and Learning and Development module, but what was really interesting about what you've said about a number of your modules, whether they were HR based or whether they were marketing based, was that you've really valued the opportunity where you can apply theory into practical situations in real life. So that's really, really helpful. And I know many listeners and viewers may be thinking about applying to university. And so I know that will help them to just think about the relevance of modules they may be studying. So thank you so much for that. Moving on to the next question, if I may ask, Anna, what has the experience of working full-time been like after graduation?
So since graduating, I've been working at Vista, which is an SME here in London. And I began as a financial assistant and worked my way up to a financial manager. And I then, being a part of a SME, you're kind of called to become a jack of all trades. And the roles aren't as rigid. So even when my role was fully based in the financial sector, I had the opportunity to get involved with payroll, HR functions, strategy, and even marketing. So having that exposure, really gave me a broader understanding of the different functions that contribute to a business. And so far, it's been a journey of just embracing the variety and saying yes to challenges. And it's been very rewarding to see how a business flourishes.
Wonderful. And again, just to pick up on some really valuable insights you've shared just there, Anna, and that is that with a small, medium enterprise, an SME, as you mentioned, in your family business, it also creates a lot of opportunity because roles are not always rigid. And
Oh,
you're required sometimes to have knowledge about the wider company, to know about other roles, and to be able to step up as well. So I think that's really encouraging for listeners and viewers because that can be seen as an opportunity. It's not always about the large private sector, global or organizations as well. So I think that's really insightful. And also something that I know you've alluded to just very briefly, but I think it'd be really valuable to just put a spotlight on it,
yeah.
Anna, and that's how hard I know you worked
Oh,
because
thank
you
you
spent a
so much.
lot of time studying and working full time, and also when you were doing your placements, still working in your family business. And so that speaks to both your fabulous work ethic, but also the importance of working hard as well. So I hope you don't mind me sharing that
Thank
with
you.
listeners and
Thank you
viewers
so
as
much
well.
for the kind words.
Not at all. But and I think it's really, really important because often job advertisements, you were mentioning the HR module
Mhm.
a few minutes ago when we talked a lot about, as well, recruitment and selection, as well as learning and development as well. But often when a job is advertised, we see that term needs to be flexible,
Yeah.
needs to be adaptable. And I think you personify so much of what that means. So thank you so much for that, Anna. If I could move on to the next question, what advice would you give to listeners about that transition phase between university and graduate employment, particularly for any of our listeners who may be about to graduate or who perhaps have family and friends who are about to graduate?
Of course. So I would say to start early, even before graduating, starting to look into internships, part-time roles, and building your experience, building your CV, and gaining a bit more confidence and taking the time to develop a career plan. Secondly, I would have to say networking is extremely important. So getting yourself onto LinkedIn, going to university events and attending networking events is extremely important as well.
I really like that point you made about having a clear plan, but also by starting early. We
Yeah.
can get caught up in the excitement and the celebration of graduation, which is really wonderful. But you have been so wise in terms of planning that, next step well in advance of leaving university. So that's really, really helpful. Thank you so much, Anna. In your experience, what are the main challenges and the realities which graduates face when pursuing their ideal career choice?
But there are many challenges. However, I feel like a major challenge would be uncertainty, um, especially if you haven't secured a job before graduating. It is one of the biggest challenges is that pressure of having to have everything figured out straight away. And you're faced with questions like, do I follow the path that I studied for, or do I explore something new? Or am I choosing a job for its experience, or am I passionate about it, or is it for stability? So I think it's really important to give yourself that space to not be afraid to pivot or change your career plan if you need it.
Wonderful advice, because it happens to all of us. I think what's
Mhm.
really wise about what you've said is that you can pursue a particular course of study, and you may listen to really wise individuals and family members and friends who are encouraging you to take a particular career path. But then through that time of studying, sometimes we can learn, I'm maybe learning new approaches and new areas of interest. So really taking that time to think carefully about that next career move is really so wise, encouraging about what you said, Anna. So thank you so much. What are the benefits which graduates can hope to achieve when they secure their first position after having overcome some of those challenges and the realities of transitioning to employment?
So it is a huge milestone to be securing your first role, and it gives you that opportunity to move all of the theory that you've learned in lecture halls into practice. And as I mentioned before, it just gives you that ability to shift and build confidence in your abilities. And suddenly you're applying what you've learned into actual business challenges, and it's incredibly empowering. Secondly, I think your first role always helps you understand what you enjoy, what motivates you, and maybe even what you dislike about a role. And if your preference is to working from home or a 9 to 5 in a office setting, perhaps. So it gives you that opportunity to get to know what your preferences are.
Really great advice, Anna. Thank you so much. And I really like the fact that you've raised that very contemporary issue at the moment as to where would you like to be based?
Mhm.
Do you see yourself as working in an office? If you've done a year in placement or an internship before graduating, you may have a very clear sense of whether you prefer working in an office environment, or whether you prefer working from home. And that's a very real issue and a very common issue that's up at the moment for so many individuals, particularly in the wake of COVID-19. So thank you for introducing that point, Anna. Really great. What advice or information would you like to have had as a student in advance of graduating that might have made that transition a little bit easier to navigate into your first role?
So I think to staying positive and patient, knowing for a fact that rejection is a part of the process, but definitely not a reflection of your potential. And keeping on going, reflecting on feedback, and also knowing that it's very easy to feel overwhelmed juggling job applications and interviews while completing your degree. So, giving yourself that time. And secondly, I think is to build soft skills, things like communication, teamwork, and time management. It can always mean the difference between you doing well at a job and truly thriving in it. So it allows you to grow your career further.
Fantastic. And what's hugely beneficial about what you've shared before leaving study, and while it's really empowering to get your first job, you've
Mhm.
mentioned the number of applications sometimes that you have to complete. And sometimes for students, it can feel like they're doing a number of full-time things. They're studying full-time, they might have a
Absolutely.
job, even part-time, but also completing application forms may feel like a full-time job because it is so time insensitive.
Mhm.
So that speaks to another point that you made much earlier in the podcast about time management and preparing well and having a clear plan. So that's really, really helpful. And I really love the point that you made about, getting that first role can be hugely empowering and that opportunity to work with others. But what I also thought was really invaluable about what you've just said, Anna, was the importance of soft skills, that
Yeah.
it's not just about the theory, and that can make the difference between being good in your future job or excelling. So that's really very wise advice. So thank you so very much indeed. For
Thank you.
those listening to this podcast, what top tips would you offer to help them should they find themselves in a similar situation to you? And you've mentioned a number of top tips already. So this is just maybe an opportunity, Anna, just for us to summarize those about that planning, that time management, those soft skills.
Of course.
How
And
would you summarize those, please?
I also think to just add to that is it's really important not to compare yourself to others' journeys or others' paths. It would rob you of your joy to start comparing and rather than appreciating how far you have come in your journey. Secondly, I think also asking for feedback when it is possible and reflecting on it and using every single experience, even the rejections, as a learning opportunity.
What was really wise, I think, and I think it's a beautiful expression that you said about not comparing oneself with others, that it can rob you of joy.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a beautiful expression, but a really helpful expression at a time when perhaps many graduates have spent 3, 4 years, perhaps longer, with their friends. And naturally, there is a tendency to compare one's performance, in grades with others. But this time between graduating and securing your first job is really a very individual time. So I think not comparing yourself with others is just really helpful for many as well. So thank you so much for that, Anna. We also ask our contributors to make a free resource available. So listeners and viewers can find that free resource available in the link below.
Yeah.
And we encourage everyone to just check those out because that can be really helpful. And those free resources relate to our topic as well. Sadly, our time together, Anna, has come to an end. I could talk much longer with you because you have so much wisdom to share with our listeners and viewers, Anna. And all that remains for me to say is thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your invaluable and wise insights with us and the listeners and viewers. And thank you also to our listeners and viewers for joining us today for this episode. Would encourage them to also check out the other episodes in this series, Navigating Career Paths, all of which are really helpful and all of which provide other free resources. If you wish to connect with Anna directly, there's more information on her biographical picture below and some of her contact details. So thank you so much, Anna, for being with us.
Thank you so much, Sinead. Thank you.
Thank you and take care and bye for now.